Welcome to the podcast. In today's episode, we will be discussing the highly successful Protect program. This program has been designed to provide a comprehensive approach to safety and security for all members of Fort Johnson. Join us as we dive into the details of this exciting new initiative and hear from some key players involved in its development. So stay tuned. Here we go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Whenever you are listening to this podcast, I'm Jeff England from the Fort Johnson Public Affairs Office, and this is the Fort Johnson Podcast. I would really like to come up with a new name, but I have yet to figure out a good one for it. I'm trying to figure out all this stuff. But today we have three special guests from the Protect program here on Fort Johnson. We have Specialist Kevin West. Hey, how's it going, Kevin?
Hey, sir.
All right. And we have Sergeant First Class Eric Rostamo.
That's right.
And Lieutenant Colonel Patrick Murphy. How are you doing, sir?
Doing well, thank you.
That is great. Great to have you guys in here. I'm so glad that y'all were able to make it in and come and talk to me and everybody else that wants to listen.
No, thanks for having us.
All of my listener out there. So what is this? So why don't you tell us all about this Protect program and just get us started to see what it is. What is it exactly?
Yeah, Jeff, of course. So the Protect program that we do here on Fort Johnson and JRTC is a program that was designed to give in addition to the Army's SHARP, EO, and suicide awareness programs. So what we do is we take the soldiers, really, bottom line is teach them the impact that these harmful behaviors that erode trust in the Army and destroy cohesive teams does, right? So, everyone knows that these things are yeah, go ahead.
So basically you're talking about you're teaching the person that if the way they act, how it impacts other people.
Yes, actually, that was very well said, Jeff.
You explained it to the point where I could understand it. So,
yeah. So we explained to them the impact, right, that these things have.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize that they're hurting somebody, or that's just not acceptable, or somebody took offense to that, in the very, very wrong way.
Yeah, a lot of times soldiers will just get hey, don't do this. Right, don't sexually assault somebody. Don't sexually harass somebody.
That should go without saying.
Yeah, and racist comments and extremism and stuff like that. But what we want to do is we want to take them into a small group setting, and we do a 1 facilitator to 5 student to lead ratio, very intimate group, instead of at Bayou Theater with an instructor and 60 students where they can just kind of sit in the back and really maybe not pay attention,
play on their phone and.
No, yeah, exactly. So we'll get them together, and the facilitator will go and have, honestly, as directed, it was a couple years ago, I remember, as directed by the CSA to have these difficult conversations. And they'll do that for 2 days before they go into an escape room, which we'll talk about later, as to how they'll kind of have these conversations about how maybe an inappropriate joke will, how that can affect somebody.
So what we're trying to do is build advocates with ownership, right? What you see is a lot of our soldiers coming in brand new to a unit, 18 years old, they're coming into an already established culture, right? And they're kind of feeling out and say, what are these social norms, right? And sometimes in some organizations, those social norms aren't within the Army values.
Yeah, there's a lot of backgrounds that come into the military, all different kinds of backgrounds, and what's accepted in certain areas aren't accepted in others. Especially here in the South, people will call you honey or baby or babe or whatever, and if you're not from around here, it's not normal. It doesn't come, but around here, it's normal.
Yeah, so we're just trying to reinforce the Army values and what's right in the military. So when these soldiers are there and they may not think they can stand up to a corrosive behavior, they know they have the backing of the chain of command. They know that these things aren't right and we're not standing for it. They know that they have the power to do so. They know they can make a difference. And they know that people with this Protect tab, or they know the way, they know the rules of EO, or who the EO is, or the VA is, or the resources to bring a battle buddy to if they're struggling. So this 3-day course is really to empower that soldier to be able to stand up for that corrosive behavior and help protect their battle buddy.
Nice.
Yep. How to care and why they should care.
Yeah, why should
Really telling or facilitating, I like to use, right, why they should care instead of
I
being
think
just
that-
told not to do it.
Yeah, the why, the whole thing, and raising a teenager. So I kind of have an idea on how the teenagers are thinking. They want a reason. They want an explanation. It's like every time I tell my stepson something, and I tell him no, he's all why. Why? It's like, well, because I said so. And I never thought I'd use that so much. It's like, you don't deserve a reason. I said no. But here, I mean, this is more of, these are the reasons why you shouldn't be doing this, or you shouldn't be allowing your friends to do it either. It's because not everyone's going to be going through the class, or not everyone's going to have the same adjustment period or moral standards, and it takes more than one person to keep an eye out for their friends and their fellow soldiers and other people.
That's right. We have to keep talking about it. We have to keep instilling.
Well, of course, it's a
this
podcast.
culture.
Without talking, nobody would know what's going on.
Yeah, we have to keep talking about these issues just to maintain that culture, too. Because I know, speaking from drill sergeants, we do a really good job of inculcating new soldiers into our way of life and our culture. But
Inculcating?
Inculcating. Yes,
Okay, let me get
bringing
out
them
my
in.
dictionary here.
That's a word. Into our culture, into our our way of life here in the Army, and sometimes the 5 months or so that they spend in the initial entry training process sometimes still isn't enough, right? So we target everybody. One thing I did want to bring up, the Colonel mentioned the tab, all right? The tab is important because people are what they can see. And there's a lot of bottom lines. So to add another bottom line of the program is very cultural, right? It creates a culture here on Fort Johnson. And one of the things that the tab does is we all feel a certain way, right? When that soldier dons that sapper, that ranger tab, they feel, it makes the soldier feel different, right? It makes them feel empowered, right? So when we throw this tab on there, it makes the soldier feel more empowered to step up and stop these behaviors from happening.
It's very understandable. I mean, a police officer with a badge, when I was security officer, I wore a badge and my whole demeanor changed. I felt more confident. I felt like I had the authority to help. Whereas when I wasn't, or now, even though I'm not, I don't feel the same way. It's not my job to step in. But, when you wear that identifier that lets people know and it lets yourself know even more that you have the responsibility. It's your job. It's you can't just put it on the other passerbys. Well, somebody else will take care of it. No, you don't have to raise your hand. Your microphone is open. I did remember to open everyone's mic this time, so you can talk whenever you want.
No, just to add on to that too, one of the unexpected effects that we noticed back from my time in 2-4 before I moved up to the installation is we got a chance to attend I called it a Protect conference. I'm sure there was an actual terminology or wording for it, but basically everyone who had a Protect tab went over to the MP battalion, sat down, had pretty much a giant group conversation. There was, I can't even tell you how many people in this room, but it was a lot. And one of the things that one of my junior enlisted soldiers, who was under me at the time when I was a team leader, brought to me was like, holy crap, I didn't know that there was senior leaders involved with this. And I was like, yeah, absolutely. It's a program. Like, don't get me wrong. There is quite a few junior enlisted soldiers who have their Protect tab, but that's not all. Like, I always think of the captains, or even in this case, the lieutenant colonel sitting across the desk from me who's wearing a Protect tab. And what this soldier shared with me more specifically, this soldier had been in probably 1.5, maybe 2 years at the most. It was a time that he could look at a leader who he didn't know, and he didn't just trust them for their rank. He trusted them for the fact that they were willing to take the extra step to ensure the safety and security, and more importantly, the well-being of a soldier, not just in the garrison environment, because it's one of the things we talk about in the class of like whether you're on or off the installation, you will do the right thing. But when he is walking maybe through the PX and needs a hand, or she is going across the motor pool to do X, Y, and Z, and you come across a leader who's wearing a Protect tab, you automatically get a sense of safety and security in a very non-traditional sense from what you see. So I think the tab isn't just an empowerment tool. I think it's almost a way that you're able to almost advocate to people you don't even know, like, hey, I'm here for you if you need anything. There's not a single thing that if you bring to me, if I don't know, I can't find someone who knows. And I think that's really powerful to today's generation of soldier, to make them feel ready to step up and take the risk.
It is. It's like that friend that you have. It's like, if you ever need me, just give me a call. And
these are every single time.
And and now they're strangers that says, if you ever need me, give me a call, which it's comforting.
Well, it's also important that people in the program know that they're being heard and action is taken from what they're doing as well. Because there's nothing worse than having this tab and you're trying to do things, you're trying to protect your battle buddies, but you're not seeing the effects to it, or you're not sure the chain of command has your back as you're trying to bring these issues or problems up. So feedback loops are important part of the Protect program. That's why we have the Protect Council meetings. That's why it's also important to talk about these things as they come up in your formation. So in the MP battalion, anytime we have a Protect member who does something in the realm of Protect, we bring it up in a formation. So I'll give you a couple examples. There was a soldier in our formation. I think he's Corporal Martin now with MPI. In the back of the change of responsibility, battalion change of responsibility in January, he overheard racist comments being made by a sergeant in a group setting, and it was a joke, right? Some sort of racist joke. And he was only a specialist at the time, and that was a sergeant, right? He's a younger soldier, and this was an older sergeant, right? So you have the power dynamic there, but he felt empowered, within him to make that direct correction. That is an inappropriate comment. That is offensive. You cannot say that. In the middle of a formation when there's everyone else looking around and no one else said anything, but that soldier said, no, not here, not in my army, not in this battalion. And then he reported it through the EO channels, right? And then we dealt it. And what we did is we make sure that we recognize that in a formation. And we brought him forward and let everyone know that this is what this soldier did, had the confidence and courage to do that and make a correction, right? And that's how you start a culture. That's how you create a positive culture, right? And that's just one of many. Our own very Sergeant West now, right?
Specialist
West. You should be a sergeant.
Totally.
Bet on that.
Specialist West did the same thing, and it was even more powerful because he did it at the Anvil. And I don't want to take your story. Okay, I'll tell it. At the Anvil Bar during an event there, and it was a much senior sergeant first class, and you were a specialist, and there was an inappropriate behavior being conducted there. And he addressed the inappropriate behavior and said, hey, you can't do that. That is inappropriate behavior, and we can't have this in the setting. We're all professional military soldiers. And that's just powerful. And then he puts that, he addresses the person, calls the appropriate people, and it was addressed, right? The situation was addressed. When you address these things, and you have the confidence to do it, it's very, very powerful. And it's not even just, it can be the smallest thing, right? Like, hey, your bootlaces are unstuck. Or like, we're having this conversation and I just keep on saying guys, right? That's just where I'm from. Hey, guys, like, hey, guys is sort of a, not a term that really is inclusive to everybody. I think, could you just say soldiers, people, teammates, and like, you're right. I need to be more aware of what I'm saying. It could be as small as that or as big as what West and Martin did. And that's what's important, because we want to create these little small pockets of protect, right? And these small pockets become bigger pockets. And now all of a sudden you created an organization that deters, right? And deflects the corrosive behaviors.
And that's what we teach them in the course is that conflict management of talking to people that outrank you, that's okay to make that correction. And then the pockets of culture that it can be from a small to a big thing, and you can just make that correction, right? If the person wants to make that report in the sharper EO realm, then of course, right? Those programs exist for a very good reason, but it can just be, and we can create that culture, right? A simple correction, right? And if I'm corrected, now that soldier just put, like, let's say, assume that they're junior to me, they just put the ball in my court, and I'll tell you right now, and I hope all leaders would, it's just, okay, no, you're absolutely right. That just kind of slipped out, and I'm sorry. That's normally not like me, and I apologize. And it can be done right there, right then and there. It can be done, and that's just changing that culture a little bit at a time.
Yeah, I mean, it's to get that confidence to confront somebody. I mean, I confronted somebody recently, and I just had to push through it. I needed to say something because the soldier was out of uniform. He was completely out of uniform, wearing his OCPs, but with a morale shirt and no blouse over. And he was out in public. And I had to pull him aside, and I said, you're out of uniform. You're not supposed to be wearing that outside of your thing. It took a lot of build up on my part because I don't feel comfortable with confrontation, but I took him aside, didn't embarrass him in front of anybody. And I actually, at least told him. It's like, maybe he just doesn't understand that you're not allowed to do that. And I mean, he looked younger. So it was just a quick thing. And once I got through it, it's like, I felt better because I felt like I made a difference. I felt like I at least spoke up. And speaking up is half the battle.
Yep. And not every interaction is going to be positive, right? You're going to have the interactions where someone's not going to be receptive to what you're saying. And we teach our soldiers in the Protect program, those things are going to happen, right? So what do you do next? In this situation, what would you do next? And we make them talk through it. Where could you go, right? Well, I would seek somebody else with the Protect tab, right? Okay. I would go see my EO, or I would talk to my company commander, right? Because you try to solve it at the lowest level, it didn't work, so you inform somebody who's going to take action. And what I would tell the commanders and First Sergeants, Command Sergeant Majors is, feedback loops are very important as you're addressing these issues, whether it's, EO violation, a discipline issue, anything. Provide the feedback back to the unit, right? Because that's going to send that message that, hey, I heard you, and this is what we did about it, right? And reinforce those positive behaviors, because that's very powerful. Bring people who are doing the right thing in front of a formation, talk about them, reinforce why that's important, tell them why that's protecting our people, because you're putting people first, you're protecting your people. And that's powerful. It reinforces those behaviors and reinforces the culture you want to create in your organization.
We need soldiers to step up and care, just like we said in the beginning. We only have so many commanders, and we only have so many credentialed, sharp victim advocates and EO reps out there, and behavioral health providers, right? We only have so many. We need everybody. Colonel Murphy is not at the arms room where this may happen. He's not in where these events are going to occur. We need everyone to care. And here's blow your mind, right? So I'm the one that we in the 519th year created this program. I'm not a victim advocate. I'm not SHARP qualified, and I'm not EO qualified. Like to give that. So, and I'm the one that started this. And Specialist West here, he is not a credentialed victim advocate either. But you can tell by just listening to him speak about this program, right? That we need more of those. We need everybody to care.
So this isn't just a workplace kind of thing. This is everywhere you go.
Absolutely, sir. And from a junior enlisted perspective, especially, I think what you start to notice is, as you said at the beginning of this thing, people come from all different places of the world to join our Army with different beliefs, whether that be personal, political, emotional, or otherwise. And one of the greatest things that this program has done, even in my case here, is it's given me the power to put words to the things. Like I'll tell you, prior to the program, I'm very blatant about it, that I didn't feel comfortable having conversations about prejudice in our military because I just, for lack of a better word, I was ignorant. I wasn't taught on how to facilitate these conversations, how to address them. It wasn't in my upbringing at all or anything like that. And so when you're sitting in these classes, mind you, it's 3 days, but 2 of the days you spend in a classroom, intimate setting with, usually a 1-to-5, 1-to-6 ratio. You become so close with the people that are in that classroom. You're not staring at, I don't think I even looked at a single PowerPoint the entire class. I sat there and had different conversations about conflict resolution, prejudice, some of the, I always say, the undercover things you see with like Sharp and EO, like, well, maybe that's not a direct violation, but that's close enough that it could become something if it's unaddressed. And that gets me to like the final piece of why, when I took over for Installation Boss, why I made it a vital part of our program is, it says it in the application itself. You're not here to replace EO, Sharp, or any of the other Army resources that are available. You're almost, in my personal opinion, you're there to supplement them. And what the Viper Protect program has specifically allowed us to do is, rather than reactive, it's allowed us to proactively have these conversations. So when you get a group of soldiers with different upbringings, different dynamics, different personal beliefs, it's like Sergeant Rasmus said, it's a culture. People already know, like, I maybe shouldn't talk about this, or if I'm curious about this, I need to bring it up in a more intimate setting. It's very much, it's not about the uniform or even the tab at some point, because I see myself now, out in public and talking to people about these kind of conversations here in small town Leesville here, and it just blows their mind that someone in the military can have that proactive view on recognizing harmful behaviors before they hit that breaking point. And with as many boss members as we have across our installation who are speaking to their formations, who are writing stuff on the boss board, I think is the maybe not the new garrison commander as much, because he unfortunately hasn't had the time of sitting down in a room with me for half an hour yet. But I think definitely the
I think that's more like fortunately.
Yeah, right. The old garrison commander received, I would say, maybe 3 or 4 times as many quality of life updates from us as boss, specifically because of what we were able to do with boss members in the Protect program. One of the most powerful forms, in my opinion, that we use is the peer engagement form. Whether you're a junior enlisted involved or a senior leader who's involved, you fill out a sheet just talking about something that occurred. It doesn't have to be positive or negative, but it asks some really important questions. Something to the nature of, what patterns have you noticed regarding insert said subject, or what positive things have you noticed, or like conversations like that. And what you're able to do is, unintentionally, you almost create a walking command climate survey, in my personal opinion, because a commander is able to see, okay, here is a good thing that's going on in this area. Here is the not so good thing that we might need to have a little extra training regarding. Here's this, here's that. And it all just boils back down to proactive versus reactive. And in proactive measures, even in implementation of it in my old unit, we saw harmful behaviors that we saw more harmful behaviors reported that would previously, we'll just say, may have gone unreported prior potentially. But the numbers themselves, as a culture change, started to drastically decrease. At one point, we even heard a commendation from a higher echelon saying, hey, you guys are doing really good with not having this harmful behavior, that harmful behavior. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it. And so when I left the unit to come up to the installation, I was like, absolutely, we need to implement this. And now I have, I want to say, maybe 9, 10, maybe closing in on 11 company echelon boss reps who are also Protect members, who continue to give me walking feedback of every single thing that's going on, good or bad. And then when I go to create these reports to give to the garrison commander on like what we can address, what we can improve, what we can do better on, it allows me to even just better do my job, because I'm able to proactively say, hey, sir, if unaddressed, this may become something. Or, hey, sir, you guys are doing really good here. Please push more resources into whatever it is that we're offering to make the lives of our soldiers better.
Yeah,
here.
sometimes it just takes an extra set of eyes to see that there may be a problem or there is a problem. You know, other people tell me that, hey, you've got a problem with not being able to shut up.
Wes had mentioned something on the, but back to the intimate setting of the 1-to-5 ratio and why we do it. I'll never forget, like, our very first AAR from the very first Protect of May of 2022. There was a class size. There was one facilitator, had 3 females, 2 males in it. And the AAR, they had said, because during their classes, the females were sharing stories and how this impacted them, or this made it a hostile work environment for them. And they were able to share, right, where they otherwise wouldn't in a group of 40 because they don't know anybody. Like, I'll share my story here because I'm a lot more comfortable. And the males were just like, I have never thought that maybe saying something like, that's what she said, that little sexual innuendo made you feel every day in the workplace. So it's just an eye-opener, and I wanted to comment on.
Yeah, and I think it's also important to recognize that this is all volunteer, right? So the process is we're not telling anybody to do it. We don't want to force anybody because we want the right person. We want the person who really cares about this and is passionate about protecting their battle buddies to the left and the right to be that advocate with ownership. So we send out to the commands through their Protect leads the application. The soldier who volunteers this program will write why they think being a Protect program or why a Protect program member means to them or why they want to do this program. It has to be signed off by the company commander who does the background check to make sure there's no flags for adverse actions, there's no current investigations, make sure we have the right person. And then it comes up to Sergeant Rostamo, and then we sit down and we take a look because we only have X amount of slots per class, about 20 to 30 slots per class, depending on how many trainers we have. And we say, okay, let's prioritize these applications, right? Based upon the commander's feedback and what they write in that application, right? If you write one sentence and say like, oh, I think the tab's cool versus this whole, and I've had statements that said, hey, I was, my last unit, I came out to my battle buddies. They didn't receive it well. I had no one to turn to, and I was suicidal, and I wanted to kill myself. I want to be there for people like me who may not have somebody to turn to, so I can be someone, who could stop that bullying or hazing, right? Be that someone who I didn't have for me, which is powerful, right? Yes, we want you as a Protect program member because you're the right person who's going to be able to make a difference. And then those people go through a 3-day course, intimate setting, no PowerPoints, just like Wes said. And it's a discussion-based, POI. And they have and each of the soldiers gets a binder. The facilitator goes as a binder, and they go through the different classes. And at the end, day 3 is 2 things: a escape room that I'll let Sergeant Rostamo talk about, and then a formal graduation, because this is important. We want to formalize it. And it's in a theater. We have the soldiers out there. We recognize the soldiers. We have the chaplain providing an invocation. We have a guest speaker. And then we sing the Army song, right? Just like any other Army ceremony, because this is important.
Completely official. It's really nice. The escape room, so they do the first 2 days of training. And just like the Colonel and Wes said, there's 0 PowerPoint. And we do that on purpose. Right? We want them focused on the instructor.
Yeah, no death by PowerPoint.
No death by PowerPoint. It is conversations, vignettes. We do allow them to use video, though. We do allow the facilitators to use video, because there's a lot of good Army videos out there that can facilitate dialogue.
Must not have been made by me.
Right. Yeah. A lot of good
the good ones.
So they'll do that, right? And they'll talk everything: SHARP, EO, suicide awareness, conflict management, racism, extremism. They'll get all of that facilitation, right? Instruction already happens through Army 350-1 training. That's why sometimes I catch myself, but I don't like to use the word instruction, right? It's just discussion and facilitation. So then they'll do that. Day 3, they'll go to an escape room. We've set up a really good scenario, big, giant vignette escape room. If you've been to a civilian escape room, you'll know what I'm talking about. It's almost ran the exact same way, but It's not really the point. The point is there's a story, and this soldier goes through a very traumatic event. Right? I don't want to give it away too much on here, but I want to articulate as best as possible. Goes through a traumatic event. The soldiers will go room to room, and the story escalates, right? And it gets more and more and more. And the soldiers are trying to help this soldier or find out what happened to him and use the knowledge and care that they've learned the past 2 days and apply it in the escape room. So that's what they'll go through. I don't want to give away too much, but we are probably going to be changing the story here soon because it's been about 15 months, and we're probably going to try to revamp it. But
So how long has this program been around?
May of
15?
2023 is when we officially started, but we've been planning this program for longer than that. I would say January of 2023, Sergeant Rostamo came to me with this idea based upon what Chuka had done with a similar thing called Rapids, but it was just like a one-day thing. So we wanted to formalize it a little bit more. And why I personally thought this was great is just for the simple fact I was in four months of command, and we had 2 sexual assaults that had just occurred. We were having a lot of issues with discipline issues, command climate, culture issues, and I knew something needed to be done. Right? And I didn't want to do the same thing. I didn't want to just do sensing sessions, and I didn't want to do DEOX surveys. I didn't want to do more training. Right? Something needed to change. The culture needed to change. And so when we talked about this, we thought it was a great idea to get help from the soldiers. Just because I think someone said it already, I think maybe you saw Rostamo, that I can stand up and say we shouldn't do this, or this is the right thing, don't do that, right? But I'm not there every single moment of these soldiers' lives, but these soldiers are in each other's lives every single day. And they need to take ownership as well. They need to care about this problem. And the ones who do care about this problem need to feel empowered that something's going to happen if they address something, right? They need to feel empowered that the chain of command and leadership has their back if they stand up to do something.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people not say something or not do something because of the attitude of what good is it going to do? Nothing will change.
And that's why the feedback loops is important. That's why recognizing people in public for doing great things in this realm and all other realms, but specifically because we're talking about this, is important. I think it must have been shortly after we discussed this program. There's a sergeant in 204th MP Company, Sergeant Hurst. We gave her an Impact AM because she stood up to a sexually harassing behavior, sexual innuendo in her company. She was a specialist at the time, and 2 or 3 of her peers were talking inappropriately in a sexual manner. She addressed it right there in front of everybody. And it took a lot of courage, especially for the only female that was there amongst peers and leaders who were all males, and the courage that she showed in that situation was powerful. So we brought the whole company in. We explained the situation, what happened. We recognized her right in front of public and said, this is the culture we want. These are the type of leaders we want, the people we want in this organization. People are going to stand up for what's right and address these situations head on. And that helps sets the culture. And that's what all leaders should be doing is searching out, because people do great things every day. And more people are protecting one another every single day. And we need to make sure we reinforce those positive behaviors and recognize people when they do these great things. Because it takes a lot of courage for an 18 or 20-year-old to stand up to a 30-year-old. It takes a lot of courage for a private to stand up to a sergeant, right, or to an officer. And that's what we're looking for. Because part of the Army's courage, right? Personal courage, right?
So if somebody out there is listening and they're interested in learning more about this or maybe even getting involved, who do they contact?
That's a great question. So they would contact, right now they can contact me, and they can contact Wes too, because we're really trying to get involved with BOSS. Right, so we target everybody, and definitely senior leaders out there. Please, they can get with me too, because we need their support as well. but the target, junior enlisted, junior soldier population, and it ties in real closely. If we have time, if he can hit on how it ties into quality of life in the BOSS program. And they can also reach out to my commander, Captain Michael Volley. So me and him will take in applications and we'll set them up for the next course. And they can also reach out to Kevin here too.
Definitely, sir. Like Sergeant Rossman was saying, how does Protect really impact the third pillar of BOSS, which is quality of life? I'll tell you from my perspective and other installation BOSS presidents, we have collectively felt like quality of life is often the most unaddressed pillar when it comes to BOSS. And when I came in, I had to look at, well, what do our people actually need? What is the real purpose of the BOSS program? And it all, like, to boil it down, and like I always say, terms anyone can understand. If we're not taking care of a soldier's physical, financial, and emotional well-being in a garrison environment, then I'm not doing my job. Planning a Cinco de Mayo party like you guys seen all the posts about, or a crawfish boil, or a community service event, those are second nature. Everyone naturally wants to help their fellow, human. It's human nature. We're social beings. But when you talk about quality of life and specifically the impact of BOSS, one of the things that is often brought up is that we are the voice of the single soldier, but the impacts our program has is not just single soldiers. When you're helping like read to kids and things like that, or helping paint a school, like you're helping married family members whose kids often attend these schools and things of that nature as well. And why that all ties into the Viper Protect program specifically is because when you start asking the hard quality of life questions, the questions and conversations that nobody wants to have, what can we do to better make sure our future sons and daughters, or even our brothers and sisters here in service, are taken care of? And so when you get involved with Viper Protect and what you end up seeing with BOSS, you start seeing barracks issues that were previously unaddressed getting brought up. You start hearing about culture concerns, like maybe something has just became a norm that maybe isn't per the most current regulation, because there's so many regulation updates. Sometimes it's hard to keep up. I'll be the first to admit that. And what we're seeing specifically is a dimension of almost engaged leadership that is now being addressed, whether someone is being an engaged leader or they are not engaging with their formations. And so it's so important to us because it allows the soldiers, as Sir said earlier, it allows them to see that someone cares, someone is advocating, someone is making a change. I won't go into detail too much, but one of the most recent ones that's brought up, and the greatest example of quality of life being addressed in my personal opinion, was a culture issue that a specific sector within our installation was facing, a bigger issue that was brought up. I originally did a peer engagement form when someone had brought it to me, sent it up to my people on my end, the Garrison Command team, and was like, hey, like, we may want to keep an eye on this. And I am so glad that I did, because not even a week or two later, when they saw the first volley get sent off and people starting to come around and ask the tough questions, if you will, then everyone started stepping up. Everyone's like, hey, I can do this. I can do this. I'll talk about this. I want to be a part of the change. And so for my entire program, taking care of soldiers in a garrison environment, there is, in my personal opinion, almost no greater tool in addressing that than the Viper Protect program, because it's one of the most talked about conversations we're seeing, not just on social media, but in day-to-day in our formations. Like, I'm having trouble connecting with my squad leader. I'm having trouble connecting with my Joe because I'm 20 years older than him. I'm having a trouble helping them see I'm trying to take care of them, right? Because to go back to it, we all come from different places, and how I connect with you might not be how you connect with someone else. And it's like a walking command climate, sir. It's the only thing I can compare it to, sir. It's literally just like, if Sergeant Rossmo came to me today and he was like, hey, Wes, I want you to get some opinions on what you think about, you can insert anything, how great the PX is, or how the soldiers feel connected to their leadership. I could send the message out, and I guarantee you within 5 to 6 hours, I would get overwhelming feedback from 16 different units. I could have it collectively built and put into a formal AAR within 24 hours, talking about, this is what we've seen, this is the the action that we're seeing afterward, and this is what we need to do. So not to get all long-winded about it or whatnot, but like it's crazy because it's never what I expected. You know, when to get to the end piece of it, or even as you're talking about the escape room, you get to the end of it, and it's feedback that I received, but feedback that I seen as well. I was in I want to say it was was it the May iteration last year in 2022? March or May, one of the two.
Yeah, I don't think you were in the first. You might have been in the second or third one.
Definitely, sorry. Yeah, it was the second or third. But so you get to the end of this escape room, and I'm not going to spoil anything here, but the story, the way it's told, the way you're interacting, not just with your instructor, but everyone else who's there at the time. The Garrison Sergeant Major Nielsen, had attended as someone who was curious to learn more about it and watched us go through this escape room. When I tell you at the end of it, sir, there was almost no dry tears going on. Everyone was either at the point of bawling their eyes out or just, you could tell, emotionally in tune with what was going on around them. People like, I never realized it. I never saw it. And when you see someone from a junior enlisted perspective, especially at like a sergeant major level, who's like talking and sharing his piece of the story and why it's important to him, you realize at the end of the day, it's more than just the uniform, that we are human beings in this together, in the fight to do the right thing. And if I can even capture a piece of that and bring it into the BOSS program, and to bring a sense of, like one of my battalion boss reps says, it's a family affair, is what he always says about our program. If I'm going to bring and keep that culture of cohesiveness, I need the Viper Protect program, because it's the one thing that is hitting our formations to their core, whether it's a junior or senior leader. So...
yeah.
Very impressive.
Yeah.
So, I think you talked about it before, like very early on, right? The confidence you have now, right? Because you're empowered to do something. The program lit that fire in you, and now you're kind of motivated to do more, right? And I think
Absolutely.
that's, what we want. We want soldiers to feel motivated and feel confident that they can talk to their leaderships about it. And your leaders should be approachable enough to be able to receive this feedback and want to take that action as well, right? It's great that we have all these Protect program members out there, but if we don't have company commanders, battalion commanders, 06s who are also passionate about this program, then it will fall short, right? So, you need a top leadership support and people who are going to be engaged from the company and battalion level as well. Otherwise, we're not going to get the results we want to help create that culture that we desire.
Well, that is great. It sounds like a great program and long needed. I'm glad we've got something like that around to help everybody with any kind of problems. Basically, is what I'm hearing.
Yes.
Is any kind change the culture, or for the better. Change for the better is always better.
Yes,
that's what I hear.
It's all about building the culture, getting to the left of these issues, because they really are the most important thing out there. You build that culture, and then lethality and readiness, which is what our Army is all about, that will come. We eradicate these behaviors and watch what we can do.
It makes the world a better place. It makes the Army a better place, and Fort Johnson a better place. I appreciate all of you coming in, Specialist Kevin West. If you guys, if you're listening, please leave if you can't remember or figure out how to get a hold of somebody, leave a message in the comments, and we'll point you in the right direction. Make sure that everyone sees all of these comments and we can see the ranks grow within this program. Kevin, great to have you in again. I'll have you back soon again. Sergeant First Class Eric Rostamo and Lieutenant Colonel Patrick Murphy, I appreciate you guys coming in and talking to me and letting everybody know about the Protect program, Viper Protect. That sounds even cooler. Yeah, Viper Protect. Maybe we can get this Army wide, and we'll be the leading edge, the cutting edge of the program.
Definitely, sir.
Yeah, hopefully.
All right. Thanks a lot for coming in. That's for you guys. We love having you guys in here.
Thank you.
And we'll be listening at you later.